The probe is, I think, a very good unit, because just like in StarCraft 2, you need only one probe to make a whole Protoss base, and other than that, the probe only needs to build a pylon, and then you can make a cannon rush and make proxy stuff. So I think the probe is by far the best worker. We're going to put it into S tier. Next unit we have is the Zealot. And the Zealot is a good unit, but it doesn't have that much utility, I think. So the Zealot is almost the same as in StarCraft 2, but it has a little bit more HP. So the StarCraft 1 Zealot has 100 shields and 100 health and 60 shields. So it has 160 points in total. So it is very tanky, but of course it's a melee unit, so it's not that good at fighting. But I mean, I think of all the units in the game, the Zealot has the best ratio of cost to tankiness. So it only costs 100 minerals and you get 160 points. So it's very good at tanking. It has a huge amount of tankiness for the price. But other than that, as a melee unit, it's not that good at fighting. So you can use it as a tank, as a cheap shield for the rest of your army. I think it's a solid unit, but it's not that strong. I think it's the second best basic unit after the Zergling, but it's better than the Marine. So we place it into B tier. And the next unit we have is the Dragoon. So I don't know if you're familiar with StarCraft 1, but the Dragoon is essentially a Stalker, but it does not have the blink ability, and it's a bit slower. But to compensate, it has more shields. It has 180 HP in total, I think 100 health and 80 shields. And it also has an attack that is a little bit better than the Stalker. So it also has like explosive damage, which means it deals more damage to large targets. But it's extremely generalistic. It shoots up, it shoots down. So it's a little bit like a Marine or a Hydralisk, but it has a lot more HP. So it's actually with 180 HP, it's quite tanky, and it costs exactly the same amount as a StarCraft 2 Stalker. So in my opinion, it's just like a better Stalker. And if you consider how popular Stalkers are in StarCraft 1, I think the Dragoon has to be S tier, because it's just as flexible, shoots up, shoots down as a Stalker, but you don't have the micro. You don't need to micro it with blink. It's just a good overall fighting unit. I think it's an S tier unit. Next unit we have is the Dark Templar, and the Dark Templar is almost the same unit as in StarCraft 2, but it doesn't have the blink ability. But actually, the Dark Templar in StarCraft 1, I don't think that it's that strong. And the reasons are, in StarCraft 1, you don't have warp in. So the only possibility to get a Dark Templar in an enemy base is you can drop, or you can just walk in, but you cannot warp in. So that's a factor while the StarCraft 1 Dark Templar is a bit weaker. And also detection. I think detection is more accessible in StarCraft 1. And what I mean by that, in StarCraft 1, every Zerg Overlord is a detector, and also the Terrans don't have mules. So if you make the scanner station in StarCraft 1, you don't have to trade off between mules and scans. So you can scan all the time, because in StarCraft 2 it's always a trade-off, because every time you scan you lose a mule. That's not the case in StarCraft 2, so scanning is much more accessible. So I think in generally playing these invisible units is a bit harder in StarCraft 1. So I think it can be good, but it's not that good, just because detection is more accessible in StarCraft 1. So I think I'll place it into C tier. Next unit we have is the High Templar. So that's what a High Templar looks in StarCraft 1. And the High Templar is a really strong unit in StarCraft 1. And I looked it up, and the Psionic Storm actually does more damage in StarCraft 1. So in StarCraft 2, the Storm deals 80 damage with a radius of 1.5. But in StarCraft 1, the Storm deals, I think, 117 damage, and with a larger radius of 3. And it's the same energy cost and the same High Templar cost. So with that, I think the High Templar is just an A tier, is just an S tier unit, you know, because it's essentially almost the same unit as in StarCraft 2, but the Storm deals more damage, has more radius. You can also have an upgrade for the High Templar to increase the energy. So with this upgrade, you can storm 3 times with a full Templar. Also, the High Templar has the hallucination spell in StarCraft 1, but that's not that important. But just because Storm is stronger in StarCraft 1, I'll place it into S tier. It's really, really good in StarCraft 1. Much better than StarCraft 2. So then we have the Archon. And the Archon, yeah, it's usually a unit I think you shouldn't make it to make an Archon. You usually just make it to use empty Templars. And the StarCraft 1 Archon is almost the same as StarCraft 2, but it deals a little bit more damage because it has a faster attack, and also it doesn't have a bonus damage. So the StarCraft 1 Archon deals 30 damage to everything. It doesn't have bonus damage, and its DPS is higher because it attacks faster. However, on the other side, the Archon consists of almost entirely shields, and in StarCraft 1, shields always take full damage from any attack. So this is of course not very good for the Archon. So I don't think it's that good. It has also a very short range. It has a range of 2. So I think the unit itself, the Dark Archon, is like a B tier. The Archon is like a B tier or something. But of course, it's useful because you can if you have empty Templar, you can just make an Archon. So yeah, that's good. But I don't think it's that strong. Mainly because it has a very short range, and because the shields take bonus damage, always take full damage, so it's not that good, I think. And the next unit we have is the Dark Templar, the Dark Archon, I mean, and the Dark Archon is not existent in StarCraft 1. They removed it, but the Dark Archon is a spellcaster unit, and it has 3 spells. The first one is feedback, so that's the classic feedback. So the classic feedback from StarCraft 1 is in the Dark Archon in StarCraft 2. Then it has Maelstrom, and Maelstrom is a spell that can freeze enemy biological units in an area, and the units are still attackable. And the third spell is Mind Control. So Mind Control, if you use Mind Control, you can permanently take control over an enemy unit. And the thing about the Dark Archon is, it is a little bit of a weird unit because, the feedback is of course good, but also very difficult to use. The Maelstrom can be strong against Zerg because you can freeze a pack of Mutalisk and you can then still attack them, for example, with a Psionic Storm or with other stuff. And the Mind Control is a little bit weird because when you use the Mind Control spell of a Dark Archon, the Dark Archon instantly loses all its shields and only remains with 25 hit points. So when you use the Mind Control spell, it's almost guaranteed that you lose the Dark Archon. So using Mind Control using Mind Control and losing the Dark Archon is only worth for very strong units, and because you almost always lose the Dark Archon. And the Dark Archon is also very expensive. It costs, I think, 250 minerals and 200 gas. So very few units are worth mind controlling and losing the Dark Archon. So not even an Ultralisk. An Ultralisk is cheaper than a Dark Archon, so not even that is worth it. So I think it's only worth to mind control, I think, enemy battle cruisers, carriers, or maybe arbiters. But yeah, the Dark Archon is kind of a little bit of a weird unit. I don't think it's that strong because the spells, I put it into C tier. I mean, the Maelstrom is probably the best spell because you can freeze a bunch of Mutalisks or so. But other than that, I don't think it's that good. Next unit we have is the Observer. And the Observer is, I think it's the same unit as in StarCraft 2. it's, yeah, I think it's completely the same unit as in StarCraft 2, so it does nothing, but it observes and it detects, of course, so you need it, but it has no fighting value or anything, so I would just place it into B tier. And then we have the Reaver, and the Reaver is an interesting unit. The Reaver is not present in StarCraft 2, but it's a little bit like the StarCraft 2 Disruptor, in the sense that it's a slow unit, it's produced at the robo, and it fires one shot that deals very high damage. So each shot of the Reaver deals 100 damage, explosive damage, but every shot of the Reaver costs 15 minerals. So if you can't just fire with it, every shot, every scarab, the projectiles are called scarabs, has to be produced and costs 15 minerals. But compared to the StarCraft 2 Disruptor, the Reaver is much better. And the reason is the Disruptor has to stand still while firing. So when you take a Disruptor, you fire the shot, and then Disruptor is immobile while the shot moves, and the Disruptor can be killed while the shot is moving. And if the Disruptor is killed, then the shot gets cancelled. But that's not the case for the Reaver. So the Reaver, you can imagine the Reaver like a Disruptor, but it fires normally. So it fires a shot, and the Reaver doesn't have to stay alive or anything for the shot to finish. So this makes the Reaver very strong. On the other hand, it's extremely slow. It has been described as excruciatingly slow, and that's true. But just as I told you, it's like a Disruptor without the difficulties of the shot. So you can fire a shot from the Reaver and then, for example, pick it off in a shuttle, or the Reaver can die and the shot will still find its way. So I think it's just a stronger Disruptor. However, it's not without its faults, because it's extremely slow. Every shot costs 15 minerals, which can be a factor in very long games, but I think it's quite a very good unit. Next unit we have is the Shuttle. So the Shuttle is just a basic Protoss transporter. I mean, it's like the warp prism from StarCraft 2, but without the warp in. And it also cannot load in units from a range, so it's just a basic transporter. We'll place it into B tier, because the unit by itself is just a basic transporter, but it has very good synergy, for example, with the Reaver. So as I told you, the Reaver has a very strong high firepower, has a good attack, but it's very slow. So what's very common is to put the Reaver into the Shuttle, then drop the Reaver, fire one shot, and pick the Reaver up. So the Shuttle has some great synergy with the Reaver, but I mean, other than that, it's just a standard transporter, so nothing special. I think B tier is fine. And then we have the Corsair. So the Corsair is a fast anti-air unit. It has an anti-air only attack. It also has an ability, but the ability Disruptor Web, the ability is like a web that you can place, and it prevents enemy ground troops from firing that are under the web, but it's rarely used. But the Corsair is an okay unit. I think it's nothing special, but it's okay because you can get it. It's a fast air unit. You don't need a fleet beacon to make it. You can just make it from the get-go, and it has a area of effect damage. So it's sometimes used to kill Mutalisks, because Mutalisks tend to clump up, and the area of effect damage of the Corsair is quite useful against that. So, but it has no anti-ground attack, so it's very one-dimensional. It only has anti-air, and it's only good versus air units that clump up like Mutalisks, but you sometimes need it, so I would place it into B tier. And it's good at scouting also, it's quite fast, so yeah, B tier is okay, I think. And next unit we have is the Scout, and the Scout is notoriously a bad unit, just because the Scout is also a flying unit, that it has a quite strong explosive anti-air attack and a very weak anti-ground attack. So it's a little bit like the Corsair or a little bit like the Terran Wraith. It's a relatively fast anti-air unit, but the thing is like the Scout is just too expensive. It costs more than a Corsair, and its attack doesn't have no splash damage, so it's not as good versus Mutalisk. Usually you just don't make it because it's the unit itself isn't that bad, but if you have to choose between Corsair and Scout, you just take the Corsair because Corsair is cheaper and faster, has anti-air splash damage. This is a bit slower, has a not splash anti-air attack, so it just, for the price, it's just weaker than the Corsair, so I think no one uses this unit, unfortunately. And we have the Arbiter, and the Arbiter is like a little bit like the StarCraft 2 mothership. So the Arbiter has a cloak ability. It can cloak units around it, and it has a spell called Stasis. And the Stasis spell freezes enemy units in an area of effect, and those frozen units cannot move, cannot attack, but they also get invulnerable. So when you cast Stasis on an enemy army, the Stasis is just the Stasis units are just like out of the game for 50 seconds. And Stasis is of course very powerful because imagine you're fighting an enemy army, you can just freeze the half of the army, then kill one half with your army, and after the Stasis wears off, you kill the other half of the army. Or if you see another army, you can just maybe freeze the army, while the units are frozen, you can just go and kill their main base. So this is very, very strong. And the second spell that the Arbiter has is Recall. And Recall is just like Recall from the mothership. So you can cast Recall on a group of your units, and the units are going to be teleported to the Arbiter. So I think that's also can be powerful, but I think it's the weaker spell. I think Stasis is more powerful, but Recall can also be powerful. I mean, if you watch Artosis stream, Artosis gets killed a couple of times from Recall because the enemy Protoss flies into his base, then recalls his army, and the army is inside Artosis' base. But the thing about the Arbiter is the spells are very good, but the Arbiter is very expensive. So to make an Arbiter, you need an Arbiter Tribunal and you need a Templar Archive, okay? And the Templar Archive costs 200 gas, the Arbiter Tribunal costs 150 gas, and then the Arbiter costs 350 gas. And it only comes equipped with a cloaking field. So if you want to have Stasis or Recall, you have to research them for additional 150 gas. So if you want to have just one Arbiter with Stasis, I think it costs you like 800 to 900 gas or something. So I think the Arbiter is strong, and it's also quite tanky. It has 350 points in total, I think, which is also quite good for a spellcaster. So the spells are very good. I think especially Stasis can be game deciding, but I think it's just too expensive. Like one of these Arbiters costs 350 gas plus the infrastructure. So in many times the gas is just better spent on Templars or something. But yeah, it can be strong, but I can't put it any higher because I think that it's just too expensive. And final unit we have is the Carrier. And the Carrier is also very strong in StarCraft 1. Just like in StarCraft 2, it's very strong in both games. But I think the Carrier in StarCraft 1 is a little bit weaker. And the reason is just because there's more counters to it in StarCraft 1. Like, for example, if you play versus Zerg, the Zerg can cast a Dark Swarm on his Hydralisks, and then the Hydralisks will become invulnerable to the attacks of the Carrier. So that's a reason. Also, the Zerg has Scourge. That's a flying little suicide unit that deals a large amounts of damage, and Scourge are quite good at taking down carriers, because the Carrier, the interceptors need some times to fly out, and the Scourge can often kill the Carrier. Also, Terran, for example, Terran has the Lockdown spell. It's a spell which freezes one mechanical unit from the Ghost, so that's also good versus carriers. So I think it's better versus Terran. Versus Zerg it's not too good because of Scourge and so, but still I think it is a very, I think it has 4 armor in StarCraft 1, so that's also huge. It's very tanky. So I think it's a very strong air unit, of course, but it's a little bit weaker compared to StarCraft 1, just because the counters to the carrier in StarCraft 1 are a bit stronger, but other than that it's very solid. Alright dudes, that's it. Thanks for watching and see you next time.